Hey there, buddy, old pal, old friend. Welcome back to Ann Galaxy's channel. Am I autistic? Blah, 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 blah. Still uncomfortable in front of a camera. I'm still uncomfortable in front of a camera. Now, I have made some autistic jokes about myself on my channel. I have made some jokes towards myself about being autistic or neurodivergent or what have you. And thing is, I'm not technically diagnosed. However, my entire life, everyone and everything has been telling me how much of a fucking weirdo I am. And I don't know. If you just look at my channel for 5 minutes, I highly doubt you could look at me and just be like, yep, that's a normal, neurotypical person. And in fact, I have heard from psychologists, I am not just pulling this out of my ass, that diagnosing yourself with autism is valid. But here's the thing, here's what you do with a self-diagnosis of autism. You do not say slurs or use it to bully people who are also autistic. What you should do with your autism self-diagnosis is look at it and be like, hey, these are tools that other autistic people use to improve their life in their day-to-day. And then if you try to apply to them and they work for you, then great. There was this paper, I think it was a paper or some study I found. I wish I could find it again. The paper just showed like how autism shows up in women, because it shows up differently with men and women. I really wish I could find that paper or study again, because it could probably be a very good resource for yourself. But when I tell you that I checked the boxes for every single thing that study listed, it was kind of a breakthrough of sorts. A lot of tools that autistic people use in their day-to-day lives to make things easier for themselves have worked for me a lot. Such as not working a shitty ass corporate job anymore that I fucking hate. Autistic people tend to thrive when they are doing things they like, and this is certainly something I like. So what I got here is a website called IDR Labs. I really like this website. Now, okay, this isn't necessarily a end-all be-all diagnosis if you happen to show these traits from these tests that are described in these tests. This isn't an official like diagnosis thing. But it does kind of give you a lot of insight on who you are and perhaps what things you may or may not have. That's a lot. There's a lot of different check out which trailer park boy you are. There's a lot of different tests here, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should just take some because that sounds fun. Now we'll start out. Ooh, pony. Okay. Kinsey scale. What the hell is that? Oh, okay. Could rate how gay I am if I wanted. Rorschach. Oh, let's do the Rorschach one in a bit. Okay, but there's let's do the autism one first. I just saw it. Here it is. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead. I understand and wish to continue. Thank you. I usually feel unhappy more days than not. Not anymore. Really? Next. I talk to my friends at a party the same way I would talk to my coworkers. Absolutely not. Nope. There is a very big difference between the people I work with and my close friends, and the comfort level between that. And I don't really know if that's really an autism thing either, though. Very interesting, though. Next, I generally avoid eye contact with others. We're just gonna slide that all the way to the right. Yep. If you ever meet me in person, you will see how awkward I am, and for that I'm sorry. I really can only make eye contact with people I really like and my family. Next, being away from home for an extended period of time frightens me. Absolutely. Next, I have been described as having an unusual posture. By my mother, but she always says that I never stand up straight. I'm gonna leave that right in the middle because I'm not sure. People sometimes tell me that I'm being rude in conversations even though I think I'm being polite. Unfortunately, yes, that happens to be the case. I really do try to be polite, and people just misinterpret me as rude all the time, and I'm not trying to be rude. I really am not. It's awful. Let's just move on. Next. I feel irritated or angry when I have to navigate uncertain situations. Yes. But it's better than it used to be. See, I think a lot of this is like, as you grow older with autism, you tend to like adjust better. They would say mask. You tend to mask better, but like I don't really mask anymore. I just feel like I'm like, okay, I know I'm quite conscious of how I feel about things, and therefore that makes it easier for me to navigate situations. I'll say slightly agree on that one. Next, I follow a set schedule closely and tend to avoid unfamiliar things. Not necessarily, I can be very impulsive. Next, I often bump into things or trip over my own feet. Not often, but I wouldn't say I'm super coordinated. Although I do dance. We'll put this right in the middle. Expressions like raining cats and dogs and feeling like $1 million are confusing to me. They're not confusing to me now because I've heard them 1,000,000 times, but like way back when I was like a kid, absolutely. I'm like, what the fuck does that expression even mean? It's like, I know it's not literal, I know it's not literally raining cats and dogs, but it's like, why, who, like, I've always think about, like, where exactly do these expressions come from, you know? 10 of 50, oh my god, we're gonna be here all day, I'm sorry. I will say agree, just because. People told me that I could be obsessed about my interests. We're gonna fucking just move that right on over to the right there. Next, I get obsessed with strings of numbers such as dates or license plates. Not really. Not really. I don't think. That's a very interesting thing that happens to be an autistic thing. I don't know. But no, I'm gonna say no. Not really. I have trouble understanding what people mean when they say they feel happy for someone else. No. No, we're gonna say no. Next, I rarely experience happiness or joy. Oh. If you asked me back in middle school, yeah, but now I'm alright. Maybe I should take this test for like my person, who I am now, and like who I was in the past. I'm gonna say that I luckily do experience happiness or joy pretty frequently, especially since starting YouTube. Yeah! I cannot stand certain sounds, such as those made by vacuum cleaners, drums, and or busy traffic. Yes. More so in the past than now, but sometimes loud noises really do get me. If I'm not expecting a loud noise and I hear one, I get very upset. So we'll just say kind of agree on that one. Next, as a child I put most of the pressure on the front of my feet when walking. I tiptoe everywhere. If I'm not wearing shoes, I'm tiptoeing. That's an autistic trait apparently. We're just gonna skew that right up to the right. I almost always carry some special object in my purse or wallet that provides me with a sense of security, comfort, or control. No, but maybe that would help me. Because sometimes I feel like I gotta fidget with stuff. Like a fidget toy. I could really go for a fidget toy, perhaps. But I don't have anything of the sort. It would probably help. That probably would help me. Just in my day-to-day, kinda, when I'm out in public or whatever. I'm gonna say no on this. I'm gonna leave it right there, but it's like, because I think that would help. And if that would help, then that would probably indicate that I'm some sort of neurodivergent. Next. Others have told me that I speak like a robot. Sometimes, but not often. Only my ex did, and he was a fucking asshole. And that was only like once. I'm gonna say no. Next. When I'm having a conversation with someone, I prefer to look at the wall, at their shoes, or somewhere other than into their eyes. That's a yes. When watching movies, I do not usually look at the eyes of the actors. That's actually not true. Because, it's different when it's a real person. Like, if you're really there and I have to look at you, that shit's scary. So, disagree on that one. Hate the sound of fireworks, fire alarms, and or thunder. Yep. I'm gonna say yep for that one. I've always hated those fireworks that, like, they're just kind of like, and they're like really tiny, but they're just so loud. They're so fucking loud. You can hear it from like across the fucking city. It's the worst. I hate that one especially. I don't know what the fuck that kind of firework is called, but you probably know what I'm talking about. I hope you do anyway. Next, as a child, I would often repeat words or phrases that were said to me. Yep. Yeah, that's just vocal stimming, isn't it? I do that like every day. At parties or other social gatherings, I will usually stand in corners or close to the wall. That's so weirdly specific. I'm just gonna leave that right in the middle because I don't know. I don't really pay attention to myself when I'm at parties. I'm usually paying attention to other people. I prefer to do things on my own rather than others. really depends on the task, but I'm gonna kind of skew myself a little towards the agree. Others have told me that I have repetitive bodily movements. No, I don't really physically stim that much. I sometimes have compulsive thoughts about being injured or having other bad things happen to me in extremely specific ways. That's an autistic thing? That's an autistic thing. Alright then, but yes I do. Sometimes I just imagine horrible things just happening in my body and being like, wow, that would hurt. That's it. That's it. Next, I enjoy parties. It really depends. Like, do I know everyone? Then yes. If I don't know everyone, then no. I'm just gonna keep myself right in the middle there. Others say that I speak too loudly or too softly. My boss has, well, she's kind of my boss still. She has said that, yeah. Next, I accumulate lots of facts on subjects and topics that interest me. Yeah, but not as, I don't know, like when people are always like, oh, because you're autistic, you must know a lot of stuff about a certain thing. Not necessarily, I just really like a certain thing. I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, but I kind of can't. So I'm gonna kind of slightly agree on that one, but I am always in the same neutral or flat mood. Not necessarily. New social situations make me anxious. Well, that, absolutely, yes. I have a tendency to yell at people when I feel frustrated or stressed. I've gotten better at this, but I'm gonna say, yeah, kinda. But it's like, that seems like such a normal thing, you know? Like, when you're frustrated or stressed at someone, you tend to yell at them. Right? I don't know, maybe I'm not, I don't know. I've gotten better though. I'm not as bad as I used to be. Okay, next. I get temper tantrums where others cannot reach me. No. Not anymore, really. I mean, I never really temper tantrumed. I am much better now at saying, I am upset about this thing, and this is why. And then people are typically more understanding. And like, that's something I had to develop. So like, if you're autistic, that is something that you can develop. It's not like, you're not stuck doing that, you know? You can change. So I'm gonna say no. I have a tendency to hit or destroy things when I'm angry or stressed. I used to. A lot more, but I think I'm better now. I'm gonna do the slight disagree hesitantly, though. I often rock or fiddle with my hands to feel better. I have been doing this, just this whole time. Just doing this, like this whole time that I've been standing here. I've just been playing with my fingers. I'm gonna say yes. Next, even when I am paying attention in conversations, I do not necessarily look into the eyes of the speaker. I will say yes for that one, but only slightly, because sometimes I can make eye contact. Then sometimes, when you're making eye contact with someone, I'm so distracted by the fact that I'm trying to make eye contact with them that I end up just not listening to anything they say anyway. I'm often beset by feelings of sadness. Beset. Surrounded. No, I'm gonna say no, because not really. It used to be much worse. But no, I just like talking to people I don't know. I don't necessarily dislike it, I'm just not comfortable doing it. It's like, I do like meeting new people nowadays, but I really struggle to make conversation with people I don't know. So I'm gonna leave that right in the middle, cause I don't know. I'm very sensitive to noise, I'm gonna say yes. When I get angry, I calm down faster than most people. I don't know, is that an autistic trait? Cause I do notice that I kind of calm down really quickly, which is weird. You would think, because here's the thing, if you have autism, you have like issues with emotional regulation, so you would think that it would be harder to calm down. But I have noticed that if I express like, oh, I am feeling upset about this thing to someone and I explain why, and then they understand, then I'm basically calm. That's like the biggest thing, is like, if someone doesn't understand why I am upset, that's going to make me more upset, but the instant they understand, I do not feel upset anymore. You know? I feel like that would be a very normal typical thing, but apparently it's not. How have I been filming for 20 fucking minutes? I've never been good at sports. That's correct. That's definitely correct. I'm gonna put that all the way to the right, even though I like sports. I like bowling. I like tennis, but I've never been really all that good at them. When I see a balloon, I worry that it might pop. No, not necessarily. Others have told me that I have problems managing my anger. They used to. I used to have issues. I'm gonna say slightly agree on that one. I'm rarely worried about anything. I'm gonna say no on that one. It's like, again, it used to be much worse. Like as a child, dealing with all this bullshit, like as a child, is the worst. If you're autistic and a child, you have no control over anything. So, like, these symptoms are gonna be worse, you know? Next. I have certain routines or habits that I feel I must follow. Nope, not really. I do not like going to loud places like malls, markets, and amusement parks. No. When I was younger, I used to literally seek out crowds, and I'm not sure why. It kind of feels perhaps maybe I was trying to absorb positive energy from outside influences instead of being stuck at home. Does that make any sense, or do I sound like a crazy person? Next, they have told me that I make repetitive strange noises and or repeat certain words out of context. Nobody's ever told me that, but I know I do this. I'll just do that as a slight agree. You ever just vocal stim in the middle of, in like a silence, you just, out of nowhere, you just gotta be like, wacky slush. It's hard for me to sit still without tapping or fidgeting. I would say yes. It is stressful for me to retain eye contact with others. We've kind of already talked about this already, but yes. I find it difficult to make decisions or act without guidance from others. Absolutely, actually. It's very hard for me to do that. Huh. Anyway, let's see our results. They're moderate. Tics and fidgets is really up there. Hot damn. Anxiety's really up there. Social difficulties pretty up there. Again, like if you asked me these questions when I was in like middle school, these would all be like way the fuck up here. Very interesting. Depression. People with autism are 4 times more likely to experience depression than those who are neurotypical, which I have struggled with depression like a lot, but when I was younger. Like nowadays, not so much. One of the strongest predictors of depression is loneliness. Since individuals high in the autism spectrum are more at risk of isolating themselves, they may have more depression triggers. Yep, sounds about right. Many people with autism spectrum disorders have difficulties in dealing with change. As a consequence, they often have routines that they feel that they need to follow. Adhering to these rituals and routines tends to make them feel more in control of their environment. They also usually have special interests that they feel they must tend to, which they experience as fundamental to their well-being. Absolutely, on the fixations part, routines, I kind of don't really have a routine, especially since I'm doing this. Abnormal flat speech. Individuals with autism generally speak differently from most people. They may talk in a flat or exaggerated way or speak in clipped bursts. I think it really depends on my mood. Noise sensitivity. One common symptom experienced by people with autism spectrum disorders is intense sensitivity to sound, which yes, I do have, but also at the same time, I do like going to concerts and stuff like that, but I can be very like overstimulated in certain environments. I kind of wish they had something about like lights and not just sound. Like I wish they had some questions about lights, because I feel like I'm more sensitive to lights than sounds. I'm not gonna read all these. If you want to read all these, feel free. Go on to idrlabs.com. Now, there was another one that I wanted to do. I wish I could do all of these. Likability test. I don't think I'm that likable. So the reason why I'm doing the ADHD test and the autism test is because if you got one, you tend to also have the other. Not always, but that tends to be the case. I often feel frustrated and or misunderstood. Yep. Yep. But not as bad as I used to. Because again, I can communicate my feelings a bit better than I used to be able to. Next. I often do not follow through when someone tells me to do something in a specific way. Yep. Yes, that's a yes. That's a yes on this one. That's a yep on that one. And I didn't think that I had ADHD because I was like, oh, I'm not hyperactive, but I cannot, for the life of me, pay attention that well when certain things happen. Next. I often forget about deadlines or important dates. I'm gonna say yeah. It's like if I don't mark it in my calendar, it doesn't exist. It's gone. It's gone. Next. It is hard for me to cope with my own errors and or challenges that are unfamiliar to me. Yep. I would say like that. I want to say that's better now. I don't think so. As a child, my parents and teachers were concerned regarding the pace at which I learned to speak. I don't think so. My thing was like, I did very well in school up to a certain point, and then I was like, I am bored with this. And my mom interpreted that as, I need to be challenged more in school. And then I was put into an alternative school where I experienced the worst depression of my entire life. And so she didn't think it was ADHD. Anyway, I'm gonna say no on that one though. It is challenging for me to consistently stay on top of my obligations and or pay my bills on time. See, that's why you enroll in auto pay. Duh. I'm gonna say slightly agree on that one. Next, I find myself avoiding tasks and responsibilities that I do not immediately see how I could tackle. That's a big one, yes, on me. People often expect me to know or understand things that seem strange or nonsensical to me. Yeah. They do. Why? It's like people just expect me to know things about the most random shit. And then they get mad at me when I don't know about something. It pisses me off. But yes, I do agree. I think my camera battery is about to go, so we're gonna speed run this, okay? I have difficulty staying focused for long periods of time. Yes, I do. It is difficult for me to remain in one place. Yes, it is. It used to be better. Maybe not. I was gonna, the most I can sit down, just sit down is like 2 hours-ish. Unless if I'm like very well entertained, I don't know. Next, as a child, it was hard for me to perform balance-based activities such as gymnastics. I literally took gymnastics, so I'm gonna say no. Well, I'll put myself in the middle because I still feel like I'm kind of clumsy. Anyway, I tend to become overly excited. Yep. I easily get sidetracked. Yep. Others have told me that I tend to butt into conversations or activities. People haven't told me that, but I do that. Next, others have been surprised or shocked because of my unpredictable actions. Yep. Next, I often fidget or squirm in my seat. I'm gonna say slightly agree on that one because I feel like I don't know, that's not something that, like, the thing with ADHD, I associate myself more with the inattentive one than the hyperactive one. But I do fidget or squirm at times, so I have days where almost everything gets on my nerves. Yep. My mind often wanders during conversations and or lectures. Yep. I'm frequently unable to sit still. Again, I don't know. I'm gonna just keep that right in the middle. Others told me that I talk excessively. They haven't told me that, but I know I talk all the fucking time. Next, I often lose things like my wallet, keys, phones, important documents, and the like. Yes, I do. Next, as a child, I had difficulty learning how to button my clothes or tie my shoelaces. No. Weird that that's a thing. You know, like, why is that, like, associated with ADHD? That just seems very strangely specific. I had difficulty with activities that involve bodily coordination skills. No. When I think a task is too hard or confusing for me to handle, I often give up. Yep. There's a reason why I haven't learned any music yet. I haven't learned anything about my poor Roland 5SH4D. I'm sorry. I will become a musician someday, I promise. Next, I usually become verbally or physically aggressive when I'm angry. Yes, but not as bad as I used to, but I'm gonna put that on slightly agree. As a child, I tended to get overly excited or become overly passive from exposure to bright lights, loud sounds, or other stimuli. I'm gonna say yep on that one. My thoughts and feelings often get in the way of me being successful at school or work. Yep. Even crucial appointments tend to slip my mind. Yep. I often fail to pay attention to details. It really depends. If it's something I like, then no. But if it's something I don't really care much about, then yes. I'm gonna say slightly agree on that one. I sometimes blurt out things in conversations without really knowing what I said or why. Yep. Yeah. When I was a kid, I often ran about in situations where it was inappropriate. Like running around, literally. I'm gonna say no. I didn't really do that. It takes a long time for me to calm down after experiencing intense emotions. You know, I just said that it took me a short time to calm down with the autism test. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna leave that right in the middle, because I don't know. I often jump from one activity to another. Yes, sir. It is difficult for me to have to wait my turn. Yes, sir. I often forget to run errands and do chores. Absolutely. Finish. Wow. Oh, wow. The inflexibility, the forgetfulness, the inattention, the impulsivity, the emotional dysregulation. Not much with hyperactivity, not much with developmental delays, coordination. But, like, mentally, I feel like I was really behind all my peers. Like a lot. Physically, no. But mentally, yes. It's like I reached a point where I was like really ahead and I was really smart and I was really, you know, all these great things, and then I just stopped being good at them, and then I burned out, and then I never really fully reached my full potential, and now I'm here. Anyway, I'm not gonna read all these, but feel free to go take this test for yourself. So again, if you wish to take these tests for yourself, take them with a grain of salt. You know, if you really are like curious about like if you may have one of these disorders or conditions, like get a professional diagnosis, obviously. The only reason why I don't really want to get a professional diagnosis is because like apparently autism tests cost like $3,000. I don't got that money right now, but in the future, perhaps I will. Anyway, I need to go. Like this computer, this camera's like about to die. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. If you are autistic, tell me about your favorite hyperfixation. Mine is iron lung. Okay. Anyway, bye bye.